Bruce Willard unfortunately has come down with some kind of a flu bug, so he will not be here, and I'll try to do the best I can. We have one guest today that I would like to introduce, Mel Chait, who will stand and salute the crowd. And glad to have you, Mel. And if there are any others who haven't joined, we have applications on the phone that get your little badge so you can check in on the machine up here and pick up after the meeting. And we want to welcome our town manager, Mr. Rodney Collins, this morning also. The first item on Bruce's agenda is, Mr. Maloney is busy, so let's do a quick secretary's report. The minutes of the April 7 meeting were distributed with the newsletter. Are there any comments? If not, we have a motion to approve. A second? Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Carried. I will just tell you that our brochure, I hope to have had it today, but the printing machine at the high school has decided to give up the ghost. And I went to Staples yesterday. It would take them a week to print one without a white border around it. And the price was going to be a little high also. Free is always better. And I'll try and find out how soon the high school can get us a printing machine fixed. They can print it without the border by bleeding it out, and it's superior. Otherwise, they're like $1.62 a piece, and that seemed like we didn't need to pay that much. At any rate, that's that. And Russ, are you prepared to discuss the fundraiser, which is?
We are. I don't think I need a mic. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, guys, we're down to the wire. Next Saturday is our first Saturday at Stop and Shop. From 10 to 1 the first shift, 1 to 4 the second shift. I will be bringing the chairs and tables, the money bags, the money and the starter money, and the cash boxes all with me on Saturday morning. I'll be working Saturday morning myself.
The signs and the tape.
Pardon?
The signs, you take the signs.
Yeah, I'll take the signs also. If I can remember to get some tape to take them to the tables. At any rate, we're pretty well set for the month of May for our volunteers, except we do need one person for this coming Saturday at Stop and Shop from 1 to 4 p.m. Bruce was supposed to work then, and Bruce is under the weather. So can anybody here work from 1 to 4 p.m. at Stop and Shop this Saturday? I didn't hear you. Okay. So at any rate, they say we're off and running. Now's the time to fish or cut bait, so to speak. The next thing I want to do, did I miss anything? Did I miss anything?
No, I'll give you a piece of the tape when you pick up the
Yeah, okay.
table.
Okay, the other thing is I need a volunteer to help me. I can bring the tables and chairs and the cash boxes and the money, everything, to the Saturday mornings, but I cannot take them back here to the Mashpee Center on Monday morning. I work. I need somebody to pick up the tables and chairs on Saturday night, bring them back here on Sunday morning. Monday morning.
Bruce, I can do that.
I need a volunteer. Everybody? Okay,
I'm gonna be there anyway, so I'll pick it up at 5 or 4.
that's for this week or for 8 weeks?
Well, no, this week anyway.
Okay, that's good. You're gonna be there anyway. Okay. The other thing I'd like to mention, fellas, is every year we have asked the members of the Men's Club to make a contribution, tax deductible, to the Boys and Girls Club. And every year we've had a tremendous response from a lot of the members here, anywhere from $50 up to $1,000. What I'd like to do is just to tell you, last year, members donated $2,900 to the Boys and Girls Club. Checks made out to the Boys and Girls Club, presented to our treasurer. In total, in addition, we took in $8,956.27 from standing in front of Roche Brothers and Stop and Shop for 8 Saturdays. For a total of $11,876.27, which was wonderful. What I'd like to do now, I'd like to have you guys make a commitment, not to me, but to yourself, to make a donation by check made out to the Boys and Girls Club, giving it to our treasurer, and you will receive a tax deduction form from the Boys and Girls Club for your donation. So please think about that, and if you want to bring it to the next meeting or mail it to the treasurer, you can do that. The treasurer's address, I think, is on the roster.
It is.
It's a membership roster that everyone gets via email. So please, let's do our duty, do our part. Let's help this. It's our one fundraiser of the year. We want to make it a big deal. We want to make a big thing happen. We want to make sure that we can cover the 3 scholarships, plus give the Boys and Girls Club some additional funds for operating expenses. This year, we're going to be using what they call Square. You want to know what Square is?
Yeah.
Square is a little reader you plug into your phone, and you can swipe somebody's credit card through that. They can make a donation. We're not going to let them make donations of $1, $2, or $5 through that, because there's a credit card charge on that.
3%.
So, but if anybody would like to make a larger contribution, we can do it via the credit card. And I will be there every morning, every Saturday, to go over this. It's very, very simple. And I'm letting you use my phone for the 8 Saturdays. Okay? So any questions about that? It's very, very simple, and I'll teach everybody how to do it. Any questions?
Yeah, when you have 2 different sites at Stop and Shop, how are you gonna do that with one phone?
Well, unless someone wants to let me use their phone, I can have a second phone. Because I don't have 2 phones.
But you need 2.
You need 2 devices too.
Squares too.
Right.
I have 4 squares, 2 Apple and 2 of the other ones,
Oh.
non-Apple.
Interesting.
So I have enough squares, that's not a problem. But if I can let someone would let me use their phone on Saturdays, I'd return it to them during the week, pick it up again on Friday.
If we only have one phone, Ross, you could have it at the front door, Stop and Shop. That gets a lot more traffic than the back door.
We could have it initially at the front door, which is, if you're facing Stop and Shop, would be the left side.
And the back door can refer people to the front if they come out there.
Or you could call, hey Russ, and I'll come down. Okay?
Is it worth getting a burner phone or?
A burner phone is not gonna have the
Won't work.
capability.
Won't work.
You can get a smartphone for a pretty cheap amount of money.
I
that will do
checked them out,
everything.
they're $50.
Okay,
Russ, you could,
okay.
$50 plus the monthly charge.
Right,
Another 25, so that's $100 right there.
okay, I have a phone I can donate. Is it worth paying the monthly fee for a month or 2 to go ahead and get the convenience of having that extra phone at?
That's $100 right there.
We're only there 4 times, we're at Ross, where we
what
do
you
better.
can do is make sure there's enough paper around. You can write down the name and the credit card number, and
No.
somebody can hand key it in
No,
on the
no,
one
no.
square that is
No,
available.
nobody's gonna
No,
wanna
no,
give
no,
this guy stuff.
no.
Just send them.
Excuse me.
To the front door.
There's only gonna be 4 times.
Excuse me. Mashpee TV has a cell phone that just sits on the desk. If you want to use it, you can use it.
What is it, Android or?
It's an Android.
We'd love to. We only need it for 4 Saturdays.
It's fine. You can use it for as long as you want.
That's
It's
wonderful.
paid for, it's running. We only use it to fly a drone.
Okay, can you provide the drone too?
We can do that.
That would-
Drone,
so-
big pockets, that's.
But seriously, I have a phone you can use.
So how would I get the phone?
Call me.
Okay, I don't have your number. I think.
I'll give you the phone
Okay,
info.
all right. That's wonderful. Thank you very, very much.
All right, right
So
on.
that solves that problem. So, that was the big problem. So, thank you very much, gentlemen. Let's go forward. If you haven't signed up yet for some of the activity hours for June, please do so. So, that's all I can say.
Thank you.
Let's do it.
Good.
Great job.
Good, very good.
Treasurer's report, please, Harvey.
I'll be brief. First of all, to follow up on Russ's comment, I'm your rookie treasurer, my first year. My name is Harvey Beth, BBTH, and my mail address, if you want to mail me a donation for the Boys and Girls Club, is 17 Longwood Road in Mashpee. Treasurer's report for the month of April. In the month of April, we raised $90, big whopping $90 received, $60 for membership dues, $25 from our 50/50 raffle, and $5 from the sale of cups of coffee. And during the month, we expended $130, 50 of which went to a gift that we gave to the young person that designed the brochure for us, and $80 is withdrawn and put into the change fund for the Boys and Girls Club services at the two supermarkets, so we'll have change. So that's a net effect of, we raised 90, we withdrew 130, so we ended up with a reduction in our total cash and asset of $40. So now we are sitting with, we started the month of April with $1,376.75. We withdrew $40 net from that, so we now are sitting with $1,336.75. That's the treasurer's report for the month of April.
Approval. Any discussion, all in favor, please say aye.
Question.
Aye.
No, okay.
Opposed, carried. And our
I'm
last,
not opposed.
uh,
I do have
business-
one question. Would it make sense to have one of those squares here for giving, our dues or any other things we want to do here? Or not?
What you're talking about, the square?
Yeah, in other words, we
The
could,
square-
Pay your dues
The
out.
square puts it directly into the account of the Boys and Girls Club.
oh, I thought it came to here and then we moved it. Cancel the question.
But I have a response to that. Whatever we do on Square goes directly into the Boys and Girls Club account. It's a separate account and it's not being used for anything else. But weekly, they're gonna give us a tally on what went into that account. So we'll know. So we could use the Square anytime, we could use it here.
But it goes only to them, to that account.
Goes directly into the Boys and Girls Club.
Yeah.
If you wanna
Can you
receive-
add our account here to that square? Or does it only do one account?
We can add we can use your credit card to send a contribution directly to the Boys and Girls Club account.
No, I understood that. I want to send the money here, but we don't have an account.
Oh, you want to send the money here,
Yeah.
then it goes to the treasurer,
Right.
but it's made out to the Boys and Girls
Oh.
Club.
That's what it is, yeah.
Oh, oh,
Made out to
Bring
the
the check
Boys and
here.
Girls Club.
okay.
Bring it here and then he
Ah,
would you add
So a question for you, Russ.
It can be done.
What amount should we go ahead and use that square, technology? Should it be more than $5, more than $10, or?
Well,
Yeah, there is a
This is-
transaction fee.
when I set this up with the Boys and Girls Club, were complaining about, they paid $16,000 last year for credit card charges for using, for people using their credit card. However, they wouldn't have had to pay that $16,000 if they hadn't had a lot of money.
Yeah.
So, as far as I'm concerned, I would say anything less than $10, take the cash if you can. Whatever they get, they get. That's the cost of doing business.
3%.
Yeah,
2.75, I think. Isn't
Yeah.
it 2.75?
Yeah.
Yeah, let me just make one point of that, is the business Harvey reported, we have some dues payments. We did raise the dues for next year, by $5 at the last meeting. But the dues aren't due until July. So you can earn magnificent interest from now till July and so on. We're happy to have the money ahead of time, but at any rate, it's not necessary. And our last report then is programs and Pittsfield winners.
I don't have a lot to add, except that we're filling in the holes in the schedule for the rest of the year. And as we add, we have one speaker slot left. That may be the police chief. I have a feeler into them right now. So depending on how that goes, we're filling in the field trips also. And as we make changes to the schedule, we'll send it out to everybody.
Bill, on that, I'll report that we asked the Southport Veterans Committee to see if they had somebody who wanted to speak for November. And the fellow that they picked and who's willing to speak to the club doesn't feel November, I mean, it's not about Armistice Day or anything else. He's got a different topic to talk about, so we don't have a speaker in November at the moment. But he's available any other time, kind of, for general interest. All right, then let's get to our program. Well, let me first add too, we tried to get the high school put us off again, as it would, I put that in the last newsletter, because MCAS had to be done on the day they picked for us to come over and visit. So we're off with the high school until February, which makes sense. That was the traditional month we visited. It's a place that's close to hand, so if the weather's not good or there's snow on the ground, we don't have a long drive to worry about. And we'll set that up for next February. So at the moment, we don't have a trip for May. It's been suggested that maybe it would have time for another luncheon, and maybe at a different place, maybe like Holly Ridge Golf Club, where they have a nice lunch arrangement. If that appeals to anybody, if somebody thinks that's a good idea, let me know after the program today. But let's get to Mr. Rodney Collins, our town manager, who is fresh from combat last night, and they've given us a little fill-in on that. Ron, it's delightful to have you here, and we look forward to this.
Thank you. I'll try the mic.
But you can, with your voice, I think if you speak up, that's the mic for the TV, the little blue box.
Okay.
And, but
Test.
Yeah.
It was working.
I think you
Test.
Yeah.
Test one. Okay, I don't know if I'd call it combat last night because it actually went fairly smooth. Some people were even thinking it was gonna be a two-night town meeting, and we had it all finished by 9:30, actually just prior to 9:30. So we got through special town meeting, which occurred just before the annual town meeting. And we had over 40 articles on the annual town meeting. Some were petition articles that were repeated, and what I mean by that is, we had several articles that people wanted to see passed, and they came before the select board, and the select board ended up putting it on the warrant, and as a result, the petition articles, or many of them, were indefinitely postponed. And if you're wondering, well, why does that happen? The short answer is, by the time the select board executes the warrant, if the petition article is not withdrawn, then it has to go on the warrant. Likewise, the petitioners did not want to withdraw unless the board had added the article to the warrant. And we wouldn't know that until it was executed. So it was the perfect storm to have duplicate articles. But the good part is, everybody in the end was seemingly happy, and there was really no bickering or no real intense bad-mouthing, which seems to be the norm in decorum nowadays, and maybe it was all attributed to the young student who got up and read an essay on civility and respect before we got into the nuts and bolts of town
Made
meeting.
it groundwork.
So she gave a nice presentation. It was actually the award-winning essay, and she did that at the beginning of town meeting, and maybe it calmed down some of the discourse.
Should be
But
done at
any
every
rate,
meeting.
Yes, I think we need more of it. It used to be that you could respectfully disagree, and two people could have opposing views, but they didn't have to turn it into this intense, argumentative, hostile, disrespectful back and forth. I don't know how we lost that, but I don't think social media has helped. And before I continue any further, I forgot to introduce my assistant town manager, who's in the back, sitting by the door with the tie on, Wayne Taylor.
My fault, I'm sorry.
My trusted number two. So anyway, I always enjoy coming over and visiting you. What I thought I would do is give you the highlights of the special and annual town meeting, and then also just give you a brief overview of what we're working on in terms of goals and objectives.
Right.
So, last night at the special, $1,964,629 was put into capital stabilization, or 15% of free cash, consistent with a select board policy. As a reminder, we really did not have a well-defined capital improvement plan in the past. So what we focused on is trying to make sure that we set aside a certain sum of money, which is what this policy stemmed from. And we know that by doing it this way, we are programmed year after year after year to set aside a certain amount of money for capital stabilization. Obviously, I trust that you all know that capital is so important, whether it be the facilities, vehicles, or other assets. To get to capital, it's gotta be $25,000, whether it be wastewater or whether it be something else. Whatever department or operation that it's attributed to, if it's $20,000 or more, it comes before the Capital Improvement Program Committee, which by charter, whoever the town manager is the chair of the committee. There's somebody from the Finance Committee, there's somebody from the Select Board. I think we have 2 members at large, The finance director is part of that team. And what we do is we analyze things in terms of a 5-year program or plan. And the reason why we do that is because we try, not always successfully, but we try to avoid the massive spikes. In other words, we say, okay, the school needs this, DPW needs that, the police need this, or the fire department needs that. And what we try to say is, okay, you're not all going to get what you want in the same year. This year, it could be police, next year fire, next year DPW. And what we try to do is keep things level, knowing how much we have. And so far, it's worked well. $101,450 was put into the fire department overtime account. There has been a demand and calls for service, which is up. However, you, the taxpayer, is generally not going to have to worry about that, because from ambulance receipts, as long as we're running the ambulance, we're able to offset most of those calls. And if we don't get it from the individual, then we're getting it from the insurance company. And our pay rate is way up there. The ratio is, I think it's 95% or something like that. It's very high. $378,080 was from the community preservation funds, was used for the Quashnet School Playground Improvement Project Phase 2. $425,000 from the community preservation funds was used to replace a 35-year-old concrete boat ramp at Mashpee Neck, also known as the Edward Baker Ramp at Pirates Cove. That will install 2 additional floats at the dock. We've already taken care of Great River. We took care of Aquay. So this was the final one that we had to take care of in order to improve our boat ramps. $500,000 from the Community Preservation Fund to develop the 950 Falmouth Road project. That's to provide for 39 new affordable rental homes, 3 buildings. The funding assists the Housing Assistance Corporation, also referred to as HAC, and the Preservation of Affordable Housing, POA, and it offsets the direct construction costs, and that's going to be referred to as the LeClaire Village Affordable Rental Housing. That's the special town meeting. For the annual town meeting, the budget was approved. The budget was $66,883,590. The requested amount was $67,784,643, a reduction of just under $1 million. All mission critical needs were taken care of. The increase overall was 3.2%. That does not include the contracts that were approved. And just to give you an overview, and I think I mentioned this in the past, but department heads will submit a budget essentially consisting of 2 components. One is the personnel costs or wages, and the second component are the expenses. Obviously for personnel, it's what is the cost to pay the person that's performing the job, and for the expenses, it could be anything from gas to put into police cars or equipment, etc. Probably 90% of your entire operating costs in most towns or cities are attributed to personnel. So that's why when somebody says, well, can you reduce this or can you reduce that? You can, but it's not going to make a significant difference unless you're talking bodies. And that means personnel, which means a loss of services. And it's a fundamental formula, gentlemen. You either increase taxes or you increase revenue, or you reduce services in order to get to that bottom line that you're looking for. I have always tried to manage with balance. You've got to expect that you're gonna pay more, but at the same time, you can't saturate the taxpayer. You've gotta be fiscally responsible. I think it was Calvin Coolidge who said, if you tax people more than what you need to, it's robbery. So don't wanna get into that habit, but by the same token, you wanna make sure that through this balanced approach, that you're getting things done. In terms of enhanced revenue, some people would argue they don't want any new development, and I'm not here to make any political statements. If that's the policy of the town, then you have to live within those parameters and make adjustments. If there is the potential for growth, then sometimes that can obviously be used to offset your costs. But when the department heads come in, they submit their budget, and after that submittal, I sit down with the finance director. The finance team consists of the finance director, the assessor, and the treasurer. And it's a fantastic team. They're valued employees. They tell me basically what I need to get to in order to stay within 2.5 or better. So I know what I need to do as soon as they give me those figures. They work it all out and they say, this is what you have potentially. This is what you don't have. And I have to make the decisions to get to that point. So I sit down with the department heads, review it, and, okay, this might be something that you would like to have, but is it something that you absolutely need to have? And that's when we define the mission critical items, hence we get down to the reductions to get to the point where we've got something that reaches the balance that I referred to. The capital improvement program, $6,578,527. Big item to complete phase 1 was $12 million. That's the wastewater collection and treatment systems with the alternates. There was also an $8 million article for capital projects outside of the CIP. And there was a list including a fire truck and some work being done on buildings as well. There was also contracts for all unions in the town of Mashpee. They were all ratified, all funded. So we don't have any union in this town that will not have a working contract July 1st, 2023. And I am pleased for that. I did take a reasonable approach at negotiations. I can talk about it now because we're outside of negotiations and it's been approved and it's been funded. The COLAs, or the cost of living adjustments, are gonna be 2%. And generally speaking, what we did was we took the current wage scale, whether it was from step 1 to step 10 or whatever it was. Some are 1 through 10, some were 1 through 8, I believe. We took 2 off at the bottom and we added 2 at the end, 3% apiece. So the cost of living adjustment was not going to be 4 or 5%, we kept it at 2, but by the same token, the people who had been there a while, we made this adjustment that I just described. Why did we do it? Simply because in order to recruit good quality people and in order to retain them, you gotta stay competitive. I take a look at all of the wages throughout Cape Cod and I try to stay in the median. I'm not gonna be at the high end, but I don't wanna be at the low end either. I wanna be right there in the median. The Boys and Girls Club expansion lease, got approved. You may know this, but the town owns the property in the Boys and Girls Club, which I'm pleased to see that you support, is a very great, organization. It is a wonderful organization. I've been over there several times. I've been a judge on some of their, contests. I know Jim Kiley very well. They do wonderful work, and Ruth does a great job as executive director. So it's nice to see that you're supporting that, but it was also nice to see that article passed. So they're gonna be able to expand their program through that article. Santuit Pond, regulating horsepower and speed, that article passed. DNR staff, there's an administrative secretary who was authorized to go from part-time to full-time, the position that is. And then there was some zoning bylaw changes from solar energy systems. There was also new positions approved at the library who have been extremely challenged in trying to staff the library in terms of the number of hours that they're supposed to be open based on our population. So in order to maintain their clams program and in order to staff it properly, the library director did come to me. I don't like adding full-time personnel, generally speaking. I have done it, but I will resist it unless it's really absolutely necessary. In this particular case, I can look at you all and say, I feel that she reached that threshold. Unfortunately, the part-time staff, she wasn't able to keep them. They weren't sticking around, and it was a revolving door, and it became very challenging to her, and I know that she works countless hours. So we do have the full-time people at the library approved as a result of the article, so expect that to be staffed the way it needs to be in the upcoming year. There was a wetlands bylaw changing the buffer zone from 100 feet to 150 feet. And then there was also a raise and replace repeal attempt. That failed. And that about covers town meeting for some of the things that we're working on or will continue to focus on. Some of these things have been completed. Some of these other things are still a work in progress. Obviously, the sewer construction, Al here is one of the commissions, that's why I look at him when I talk about sewer. But right now, I think things are moving along really smoothly. The contracted services for the collection system and for the facility, I am very pleased with. I'm very pleased, and I'm glad to see that the commissioners are as well, with our consultant Ray Jack. I took him out of retirement. He was the retired DPW director in Falmouth. I believe he's done a wonderful job. I haven't heard anybody say to the contrary. There had been some, I'll say, conflicts in that arena a while back, and that seems to be long gone. Everybody seems to be working in concert, focused on what is the objective for the best interests of this community, and that's what I want to see. And I'm not being critical of anybody. I know that there were some strong personalities in the past. All I'm saying is I like seeing this harmony, and I like seeing these results. And he's doing a fabulous job, so he continues to stay on as the paid consultant, and we're moving along, and phase one will be completed. Obviously, we got into a challenge in terms of the supply chain and the inflationary adjustments that had to be made. We've accommodated for that. We're gonna get phase one completed. The facility, which is right next to the transfer station, will be up and running. And when it is, we can say that we are finally making a significant dent to take care of the clean water issue that we needed to address. I think I told you this the last time, but the DNR facility, which is one of those rental condos, or I should say rental, we own it. It's a condo down on Mercantile in the industrial park. We've got 2 units. One is for, it's all DNR, Department of Natural Resources. One is for the harbor master and the other is for shellfish. But that is just about complete. I know the assistant and I were down there the other day, and there's just some finishing touches that they gotta put on, but it's a very nice completion, and we saved a lot of money by going that route compared to building our own facility. And the condo fees are really cheap, and we obviously budget for those, so everything is good there. Town Hall, we are gonna be making just some minor realignments. Accounting is gonna be going down onto the first floor next to the treasurer and next to assessing, so the entire finance team is all in the same corner. And we've got planning going downstairs where currently IT is, and the reason for that is because planning is sort of part of the inspectional services with building and health and conservation, so they're all gonna be on the same floor. And we're gonna be putting IT up next to our office, which is where accounting currently is. For those of you that have not seen the new town seal, I think probably everybody has, but it really came out great, really proud of it, and the committee did a fabulous job. The 151 project, obviously that continues, probably driving you crazy. All I can beg for is patience, because we're gonna get it completed, and I'm sorry to say that the 151 project kinda coincided with our wastewater detour, and the timing was awful, but we couldn't avoid it. I think overall, the police details control traffic fairly well, and everything, I don't wanna say went off without a hitch, but I think overall, in terms of traffic control and detouring everybody, it was better than it could have been. So, that's the price we pay for progress. Obviously, water quality continues to be a priority of the board, and therefore a priority of mine. The community park, we're getting that finished for the Veterans Monument finally, and that celebration, do you remember the date? I should have brought the date. June 17th, thank you, Wayne. 11 a.m. And then lastly, we are gonna be working a little bit more on developing some grant funding strategies. We've applied for and attained many grants, but we always make sure that we know what the actual bottom line is in terms of matching funds and that type of thing. But we continue to look for any strategies possible to save you money. That is my quick overview, kind of long-winded probably for some of you, but be more than happy to try to answer any questions.
Can you tell me how subsidized housing works? Excuse me, when you put up subsidized housing, who pays for what? Does the builder pay for the full amount?
Well, it all depends on what type of project we're talking about. But obviously, there's an advantage to get one of two things, either the affordable housing or workforce housing. I think the ratio ideally is supposed to be 10%, and we're not anywhere near that, but likewise, I don't think any other town is. What I don't like is when we sometimes get into these programs, I want the housing to go to Mashpee residents. And that isn't always the case. So what we've tried to do is focus on what kind of a program can be implemented where we can attempt to do that.
And who determines subsidized?
Wayne, do you want to elaborate on that?
Well, that's a difficult one, because we do not do any affordable housing in the town. It's done through HAC, Housing Authority, and they do all the subsidies, they figure out the ratios compared to your median income, all of that. So they're the group between them and the Housing Authority in Mashpee, which is not a town run facility.
So, in other words, HUD actually determines the cost of the housing?
To a certain degree, yes, but the Housing Authority has a lot of say over that, because it depends on what we do. POA is also a player in that, who does the construction work, and they decide what that median is, and what's considered low income, what's considered median income, and so on. And then they work their subsidies off of that.
Now, how does the tax situation on that property go with the town? In other words, what I'm saying, subsidized housing, you put up, people are moving in, it's all subsidized. Now, is the tax on that particular piece of property determined by the town or by HUD?
I'm sure it's determined by the assessing department. They would be the ones to determine what that is. Now, they will be getting breaks on that tax rate because of certain formulas that they have. It's like veterans can get a tax rate, and, you know, someone that's blind can get a certain tax rate, things of those natures that are available to anybody. So I'm sure it's the housing, the assessor, along with HUD that determine that.
So then, once they determine the cost of the tax, then we wind up as taxpayers subsidizing that, is that correct?
No, there's a tax rate for the town in general. That doesn't, we don't sort of pay the difference for the tax.
Oh, okay.
No, not at all.
Any other questions?
I'm not sure,
No, it's fine.
okay. I
Yes.
won't go any further, thank you.
So there's gotta be a nitpicker somewhere with little things. I'm from Southport, so, yeah, 151 and all of that stuff. Is there any thought to having a green on left at that intersection?
Yeah, that intersection is being realigned, and it's being prioritized to accommodate that. That's part and parcel to the project,
That's a major element
yes,
in making it work.
yes.
Thank you.
So every single time you get caught up in that detour out here, or you get slowed down, or you have to come to a complete stop, just think, in the end, it's gonna be better.
Is it
Hope.
still a 6-year
From
project?
Brad Sweet, keep the faith.
Are we still 5 years out from the whole thing being done?
No.
No,
Not
this
6.
project is supposed to be ending next year on 151.
Thankful
Now,
that
there
the town
there
project
is a
was a-
second phase that will be, a second phase up towards Falmouth that may be happening, but not right away. So this phase is supposed to be done next year.
Going to how far out? Past
Falmouth Town Line.
next year? Really?
No, not next year.
No.
I'm saying that's the second phase of that.
No, but the
It's
first
not-
phase goes how far out, how far west on
I'm not
151?
sure, because the bike paths go a little further than the road work. so I don't know where they're going with that at the moment. But if you wanna give me a call at the office, I can certainly get that for you.
Yeah, most of it's gonna be all done, like he just said, and like I've said in the past, I know some of the bike lanes and stuff, will be receiving a little bit more work, but it's not gonna impact traffic. Anything else?
I have a question.
I know that guy.
I'm Harold from Copanesset. In regards to this, talking about air conditioning in the schools and the town hall and the police station and so on.
That's a good point.
What's gonna be, are they going to actually do all those places or just in part or?
Well, that's still pending. What I can tell you, Harold, is initially the proposal came in, at I think 22 million?
Yeah, 22 to 26. Yeah.
22 to 26 million, and I said absolutely not. So what we ended up doing is taking a look at everything. And there were two important pieces to that. Whether or not there was an air quality issue or whether or not it was just a preferred cooling issue. In the school, the air quality issue had been addressed. We addressed that to the tune of 1.5 million, I believe it was. So that was resolved. So there was not an air quality issue at the school. The issue at the school, or schools, was whether or not there should be AC in certain classrooms, and that really only applied to May and a portion of June and maybe a portion of September. So the argument was, and I don't want to be quoted, actually, cameras are going. I don't want to be quoted as being anti-school. Did you hear me, Barry? One argument was, for the period of time, is the cost justified? The other part was, they had me come over there, thanks for doing that, Patty. They had me come over when it was really warm, right after school was about to start. And I can tell you, if I was a student or a teacher, I would not want to be in that level of discomfort. It was unbearable to me. So I supported the AC for the school in certain classrooms, but not at the tune of the money that was being initially asked for. So what we did was we looked over everything, and we took again, a strategic approach at trying to find that balance. And they had some ARPA or ESSA funds that were going to be used for that purpose that came from the feds. And what we also tried to do is bring down the amount of money and get as much done as we possibly could within a reasonable expectation. And that's what resulted in the 8 million. But that does include redoing the HVAC system at the PD, which is shot. That's gone. That's why you see AC units sticking in their windows. The HVAC system, to me, was not shot at Town Hall, so we eliminated the necessity of that. It did need some piping down in the boiler room taken care of, so we did throw a certain portion of money in for that. The only thing at Town Hall that is more of an inconvenience than it is anything else, you can't flip a switch like you do at home and go from heat to cool. You can't do that. It's got to be one or the other. So in the middle of May, we flip over to AC, and then in September, we flip over to heat. There is somebody that's always uncomfortable. Because some people prefer it to be a little warmer, some people prefer it to be a little cooler. But in the end, I was looking at it from the perspective, but the system is functioning. It's not like we need a new HVAC system. So we took the HVAC system out of the mix for town hall. So that came out, the PD stayed in, I think that was 3 million, or maybe a little less than that. And then, AC at the school stayed in, fire truck was added, and help me out, Wayne, what else was in there?
Roof.
Oh, the roof,
At DPW and a
the
bucket
roof
truck.
at DPW, and what was the other thing?
There's a bucket truck, I don't know which way.
Oh, the bucket truck, yeah, I actually voted against that.
So they approved the new, bucket truck, yeah?
That was approved last night, but you have to vote on it. It has to be an affirmative vote on Saturday. So if the vote fails, then what happened last night doesn't count.
I'm Frank Flannery. Why did he consider chill water?
How come we didn't?
It's like chill water, take the water from the earth, which is 50 degrees, and use that like they do in the city,
It's a heat pump.
some places.
Yeah, I would have to go to the DPW director and a few other people that have the technical knowledge to answer that question. I'm always looking for innovative questions.
Well, I did that to my house
Yep.
about maybe 30 years ago,
Yep,
and it worked fine, so I threw it away.
yep.
But basically, we're sitting right on the water here.
Yep,
And you got 50 degrees or 51 degrees in the earth. And you could use that to do all the air conditioning you want.
well,
We did that to a theater we had, I grew up in Winchester, and put up a brand new theater. And that was all air conditioned from the earth. And it was a brook right next to it, and we dumped the water back in there. So you don't have to put a big in plant. That's what I did. I used to operate chill water plants when I was young.
well, I'm gonna get your name and number before I leave, but I'm always looking for newer or better ways of doing things.
Now listen, the way you're talking about getting fresh air, you're supposed to get 15% new air in a commercial building. And you can use the chill water for the phase you'd want
Yep.
to cool for air conditioning.
It also does
Talking
heating.
about
It also-
geothermal
yeah.
system.
Yes, yes.
And the other question I have, why is, like all of us, why is our taxes going up? I've got property here for 70 years,
Yep,
and when I first came here, I was paying $600 for taxes. Now I'm getting to be like $9,000.
well, the only thing I can say in regards to that is, as I stated at the beginning of this conversation, I certainly want to try to reach that balance. But it comes down to, as I said before, you either increase taxes, or you increase your revenues, or you reduce your services. The services have become more and more challenging because calls are up and demands are up. We have not, until just recently, we have not been adding personnel to our staffing. We just really did that for the first time, well, we did it in 2016 for DNR, Department of Natural Resources, and that was to address the water quality issue, among other things, and now we've done it for the library. But generally, we've not added personnel. To get to your question, we try to avoid that, but I am not gonna sit here and say we're gonna be able to keep your taxes at the same amount or reduce them. I mean, obviously, as you all know, it's not just about the tax rate, it's about the assessed value. And,
The problem is that in my area, a lot of them, people are buying houses, knocking them down, and putting their $1 million homes up.
oh, I know.
And-
Where do you live?
And that's all the tax money you're getting from these big homes in
Where do you live, sir?
Papaneset.
Oh,
No, I can't help it, but I've been there for 70 years.
No, I'm not knocking you because you live in Pompanesett, but I'm just saying,
Yeah.
that's gonna be a high tax area.
It's like a big Monopoly game, and you're in the middle of it,
Yeah, you're in Park
and we're the
Place.
ones that play Monopoly.
You're on the
And what the
boardwalk.
hell we get now? Now, you gotta remember, I think some of these guys who are retired, you know, I wouldn't doubt it. The only service I get that I really enjoy is the ride up to the hospital.
Well,
They do a great job, and everybody here is gonna get a chance to get a ride in the ambulance. I'm pretty sure of that.
well,
And
we,
now going into
we've staffed it.
going to New Seabury, they're putting in hundreds of houses, nobody's gonna live in them.
Yeah.
They're living there for 2 weeks or for a weekend, and you're gonna get $1,000, maybe about $900 a year out of them.
Oh, no.
$1,000.
No,
Cash.
no, you're talking,
Okay.
no, that's gonna be
Right,
6, 7, 8, 9,000 a year.
right.
Well, I mean, so, yeah, that's adding to the monopoly, you know?
What I can
So,
say
so my
is,
taxes should be going down.
well, not at Pompanesett, they're not gonna go down. I'm gonna look at you straight in the face and
Look
say
at-
your taxes are not going down.
Papaneset, we brought the water up. My
Yep.
wife and Tony Pedruzzi went to high water,
Yep,
and we went up there and said, can we deliver us water? All they have is a couple of customers in New Seabury. We sent a bullet out to Papaneset,
Frank?
which is 600.
What did you pay for a loaf of bread 30 years ago?
Huh?
I said, what did you pay for a loaf of bread 30 years ago?
Well, I mean,
the 600.
I know that, true.
Well, that's
I
the
don't eat
major
much
part
bread
of
today
your
because I can't afford it.
$9,000. We gotta get on
yeah,
to something
so let me
else.
just say one thing on that issue. There was somebody that lived on Monomoskoye. Does anybody live on Monomoskoye Island? Yes. Yes. So, somebody had called up with the same issue, because their assessed value went up, but they were selling the homes down there for 2.5, 3 million at the lowest. So, I'm not picking on Monomoskoye folks. Actually, I have a select board member that lives down there. So, long story short, they had a dock. And I said, look, I can't tell you how to run your personal accounts, or how to make your money, but if you rented that dock on each side, you're gonna get 7,000 on that side, 7,000 on that side, there's 14,000, and you have money in your pocket and you just paid your taxes, if you don't mind renting. But at any rate, there's no quick, easy answer, but I can tell you, I'm not gonna mislead you. Your taxes are not going down on Pompanesett. Because the value of that property is just gonna continue to go up. And I think it's a beautiful area, and I really appreciate the taxes generated from Pompanesett. But they're not going down. What's your first name,
Can't you
Frank?
keep where they are?
Yeah, Frank, your taxes are not going down.
Now, the other thing now is, I thought that they'd start bringing the storage from Papaneset in this area where the problems are.
Well, I don't wanna
You're
speak for
gonna-
Al, but I think it's not just about, where the water is, it's about, where the volume is.
Or the volume.
Yeah, and, there's a whole nother discussion on
Oh, I
that.
can see now.
Has Ray Jack been here? Yeah.
No,
You should get him
Yeah,
into this.
we-
Seriously,
talked
Like
about
Ray,
it.
Ray Jack, is the sewer consultant, he's the guy that was the DPW director, he's our acting engineer that I brought out of retirement, I've known him for quite a while. Really, effective in his position, and, I strongly encourage you to have him come in, cause he can really give you, an earful and then some, on wastewater. And costs.
Anything
I'm
else?
sorry, Frank, I didn't give you any good news,
I guess not.
no. But I still wanna grab your phone.
When you talk about increasing, revenue in town, would you say the expansion of the Mashpee Commons would be our best source for that?
I'm not gonna get into a political issue because I try to stay professional and neutral. The argument for is, to enhance revenue, but then the argument against is it's, going to be, too costly in regards to the impact on the community. There's pros and cons to each argument, and all I can tell you is, I'm gonna go wherever the policymakers tell me to go, because that's my professional responsibility.
But they're permitted to expand,
They,
right?
they will
I
be
mean, they will do
expanding,
something.
to the extent that I think, they wanted to a year or two ago. I don't see that happening right now. I don't think there's a will for that. But I think they will be expanding. As far as where it ends up in the end, I think, we're probably, darn close to build out. About almost 50% of the community will be in some sort of protected status. I think that's probably a good thing, but at the same time, the water quality issues still need to be addressed, so that's gonna be, a cost driver.
Do they have their own water treatment?
Yes, they
In
do.
the Commons?
Yes, they do.
So would that accommodate the housing?
I think they do have the capacity for that. Obviously, in regards to enhanced, revenues, when I'm looking at the spreadsheet, I appreciate it. But at the same time, I have to listen to the policymakers, in terms of where they feel that the town should go. And ultimately, the say is, in the legislative body, which is last night, town meeting. And they spoke, loud and clear on a lot of these issues. But regardless of where anybody stands, I just hope that everybody can have a respectful and civil conversation instead of the nastiness, even if two people disagree. Anything else?
Rodney,
Yes.
there's one thing I wanted to say. Having spent 25 years of my life in local government, I want to compliment the town in the sense that it is working on trying to keep the taxes for us at a more reasonable rate. It adopted a residential exemption, which really helps to move some of the taxes that we would normally pay off to the businesses. And we as year-round residents get a little benefit for that. I think that's a good move.
Yeah, I should have mentioned that, so thank you for reminding me. There is a residential exemption now. If you're a year-round resident here, Frank, you're probably not, or are you? You are?
Well, I may not last too long though.
You'll still be here.
If I get about 6 more months, I'll make 100,
All right, good for you.
you know.
All right, so.
I'm gonna get my money's worth though.
You're getting your money's worth today, Frank. I'm listening. I can't do much with you, but I'm listening. So, that's important. If you are a declared year-round resident to Mashpee, make sure you sign up for the residential exemption. What you do is you go to the assessor's office, you fill out a form. Now, don't get hyped up, don't get worried. They're gonna ask for the tax return. It's not what you may think it is. All they want is your name and your address on your taxes. Everything else can be blacked out, whited out. What you made or anything like that, they don't care about. They just wanna know that that's you and that's your address. And your address is linked to the IRS at the Mashpee address. I did it myself, obviously. I'm a resident. Well, I shouldn't say obviously. I guess not all managers live in the town that they work in. I've always wanted to live where I work, and I also shop and play here as well. The restaurants get a lot of my money.
How much is that exemption? What's that amount to?
It's 5% now, but they have the potential, the select board has the potential of going up to, is it 30 or 35%?
5% of what?
It's all based on that formula. Yeah, so I think if you were paying, let's say, 5,000, you're gonna save, I think, around $100 or something like that.
Okay,
No,
I
it's
think
fairly
we should wrap
significant.
this up. Is there one final question, or
I have one question,
adjourn the meeting? What,
one question, about with the budget and capital improvement. What, 20 years ago, we bought that super duper ladder truck, probably?
It was before my time, so it was a while ago.
And, it hasn't been used that much, you know.
I don't think it goes out there often, and I actually needled the fire chief about that.
I was just wondering.
So, that investment, at the time, and I'm not being critical of Chief Baker, because I like George, but if you look at what we spent versus the use and the need, probably in the end, not justified. That is why the replacement vehicle, and I've had a discussion with the chief on this, so I'm not going behind his back. It's not gonna be a ladder truck, it's gonna be a more multi-use vehicle.
You would they be trading in the super duper ladder truck or something, or what, or?
We do get something for it, but the super duper ladder truck does have some identified problems that would be costly to repair. I would have entertained that thought of doing the repairs, but we had to ship it out to, where was it, Wisconsin?
I think it's Wisconsin.
We had to ship it out to Wisconsin. So not only do we have to drive it out there, we gotta drive it back, and then it was gonna be out of service for an extended period of time, over a year. So it's like, come on. So anyway, I want you to know, Harold, that we don't just make these decisions in a vacuum.
No.
You pay me all a very good salary, thanks, Frank. We make these decisions based on all of the pros and cons after evaluating what should be done and why. So the decision ultimately was made, the ladder truck, the super duper ladder truck goes, and then it's being replaced with, I forget the name of it. The Quint truck.
Is there a ladder on that truck or something?
Oh, they got ladders, they'll get to you.
No, what my concern is that how Mashpee Commons expands, and then the houses up by Papaneset Inn and other places, they're very tall.
Yeah, they're not going to reach the heights that they wanted to unless something changes.
That's what I mean,
Are we gonna hang a flag?
Isn't that typically?
That's about what we did with that ladder truck.
Isn't that typically, that expansion and the need for other equipment, doesn't that fall on the expansion deal, let's say?
Yes, back in the 80s, they used to call that the impact fees.
That's right.
So yes, you're right.
Yeah, got our town a lot of good equipment,
Yep.
not down here, but
Yep.
up north,
We're up north.
Natick.
Natick, yep.
So
You had a question? No?
No, let's just,
So in the interim, if they vote to go for this new piece of equipment, the old one still stays until the new one comes, and
Yes.
when they trade it in, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I would caution you on is if it became totally unsafe to operate as a result of an inspection, then we're gonna take it offline. Obviously, we're not gonna have firefighters going out in an unsafe truck. So that could happen before we actually got the other one.
And the other one is a year out or more.
Yeah, and the other one is a year out.
all right, we have a motion.
Thank you all.
Very good.
Thank you.